everyone. I hope you guys are doing great. Some of you have probably already received your wood cutout with your supplies. If you haven't, it should be there today. I would think some of you are far away, but if you're local, it should be there very soon. So wanted to just do a quick tutorial on how to paint this, this adorable pumpkin and snowman. I would almost recommend doing one side at a time, unless if you have an easel, you could put it on the easel. But the problem is the dry time and not messing it up. So you might plan it to do the pumpkins one day and the snowman the other day, or at least take a break, okay? Or use your hairdryer. You could always use a hairdryer. So I've got all my supplies here. I've got my turquoise color, orange, black, white, and then I've got just some of the peach. Of course, you can use any colors you guys want. You don't have to stick to my color palette. Some of the colors, some of you may have gotten like a little darker orange or a little lighter orange, and it's just because I'm having trouble getting consistent paints, enough of them for everyone. So I'm actually working on maybe making some changes to the club where it may not include paint. So I would love to have you guys' feedback on that. Obviously the price would go down, but you would get them faster, and it would be more consistent because of the paint. I think it's just because of COVID, and paint supplies are still, it's just a little rough to get them in the quantities that I need them for everyone. So anyways, enough about that, more to come on that. So, so I've got my paint, I've got my water cup here. I've got just kind of a few paint brushes, but really you just need the big one and a small one. If you have a medium brush, you could use it, but you don't have to have it. And then I've got some napkins, and I've got my Velcro, okay? So I went ahead and put a coat of white on my snowman just so that I could show you guys everything here in the video today. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with the pumpkins and just kind of walk you guys through each pumpkin and how I did it. I've got peach on the top, orange in the middle, and this turquoise color at the bottom. You don't have to do them, of course, in that order. I've also got the face on there, but if you notice on your cutout, I've got the face etched in there. So makes life easier for all of us, right? Okay, so I've got all my paints on my plate. It doesn't take a lot of paint. I know we've talked about that before. What we're gonna do, we're gonna use brown, which I know you guys don't have brown. But if you take orange and just a teeny bit of black paint, and what I did is I just mixed it in the middle, and that's gonna make you some dark, kind of a chocolatey brown color. If it's too dark, add a little bit more orange, but it's gonna make you that color that we're gonna use for the stem, and then some accent colors, some accents in these pumpkins. So just go ahead and mix you a little bit. A little bit will go a long way. It doesn't have to be one consistent color, so it's okay if you run out and have to mix some more, okay? All right, so what I'm gonna do is I've got my peach color here. I'm gonna grab my big paintbrush. I'm not gonna put any water on it. You can use water on these cutouts. If you're struggling to cover, a little bit of watered down paint will help, but it's not like the canvas painting where you need a whole lot of water, okay? All right, so what I'm doing is I'm just starting at the top, move this guy, and I'm just kind of making my way down. All the brush strokes that we do on these pumpkins, we want to kind of go with the curve of the pumpkin. And it's okay if you get this peach over in the orange a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything, and that orange is going to cover that right up, okay? And if this is your first time painting one of these, we had a lot of new people purchase this kit, which I'm excited about. You'll find that you don't need very much paint, and it's really easy to paint on these cutouts. It's very easy to have a beautiful design at the end, even if you're not super artsy, which a lot of you are more artsy than you think you are. You just don't know it. Okay. All right. So I have that peach filled in. I know it's kind of hard to see because the colors blend, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that kind of hang out, and I'm going to move on to my orange. And if you have a lot of peach on your brush, you can rinse it, but I'm just going to dive into my orange because that peach has a lot of white in it, and I always like to mix a little bit of white on my first coat. It just kind of helps to cover everything. Now I am going right on top of my triangles and my face because I can still see those lines because I'm not putting this paint on super thick. Okay, you're still going to be able to see your little etching lines. Okay. Now my peach is kind of gone, so I'm gonna put a teeny bit of white on my brush, a glob of orange, especially on these edges. You want to make sure and cover up those laser marks from where I cut it with the laser cutter. Which really the brown on this, it kind of will complement the pumpkin anyway. It's not gonna really hurt anything, but all right. So if you've painted with me before, you hear me say a lot, you know, the first coat isn't gonna always look beautiful. So it's okay. Don't keep putting coats on it while it's wet. You want to just hang tight, let it dry, and then the second coat will look really nice. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna switch over to my turquoise color down here, and what I'm gonna do, I've got clean brush, a little bit of white, and some turquoise on my brush. Not very much white. And I'm gonna start here and just, you wanna try, so the turquoise and the orange don't mix as well as the beige color does, or the peach color. So try to be a little bit more careful down here. Try to stay kind of where that line is at the top of those little pumpkin guys. And I'm using a lot of paint on my brush. It's okay to really load your brush up because that paint's gonna move around and be just fine. Put some white in there, cover up all that stuff, all those little marks and wood grain. And if you like that lighter turquoise color, just leave it lighter if you want. I like to have the streaks in it. All right. Okay. Now again, we're gonna just kind of let that hang out, let it dry. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that brush in the water. Got my napkins over here. So I'm in my barn and there's a squirrel in here, a little tiny squirrel. I live in the woods and I'm in my barn painting, and we get these little teeny squirrels everywhere, and I see him running around. Story of my life, squirrels everywhere. Okay. All right, so I've got a clean brush again. I'm gonna do peach paint, and I'm just gonna start at the top. I'm gonna do a little bit thicker here. Be careful in the orange. You don't wanna get a whole lot. It'll still cover, but this round you have to be a little bit more careful. Long brush strokes. Okay, so while it's wet, we want to add a little bit of this brown streaky. Okay, so I've still got peach on my brush. Teeny bit of brown, like to where you probably don't even think you got any on your brush. Okay, and where those lines are that are etched in, I want you guys to really lightly drag your brush across those lines. Now, the nice thing is, if you get too much, acrylic paint is great at covering. So you can always let it dry and go over it a little bit to soften it. But if you just literally like barely put any on your brush, and you can make it as dark as you want. You may like it darker. Okay. And we'll go back and do the stem as well. Okay. But let's let that peach dry first. Okay. Now you want to rinse your brush or get a clean brush, one of the two. And we're gonna go back to the orange. And I don't really have any white in it. I'm just starting at the top. Be careful of your peach. You don't want to get too close to that line. And we'll go back a bit and add like kind of like a little brown line. Just to clean that up in between the pumpkins. Ooh, I got a little bit of brown in there, which is okay, because that's what we're gonna do anyway. So there's no lines on this pumpkin, but you can still do a little bit of shading if you want. Now, if you want it to be just a solid orange, you know, it's your painting, but we can go in and do some shading on this one too. I've got a little bit of white and a little bit of brown on there. Just keep them with the curve. You want to do this while your paint is wet. So not to like rush people, but it's much easier to blend when your paint is wet. So, and I like a little bit of the white in the orange. So the key is to just kind of put it on there and don't blend it a whole lot. If you blend it a lot, then you're just gonna have light orange. So you don't want to do that. Okay. Okay. So I like that. I'm gonna leave it. Okay. So some tips with the blending if you're struggling. Long strokes from like the top of the pumpkin to the bottom, and make sure it's wet, okay? If it's not wet, you can water down your paint a little bit, and that might help. Don't go and add, you always want to have the orange on your brush too. If you go and just add straight brown to a dry pumpkin, you're going to have a line. So you want to have some orange in there if it is dry too. So hopefully you guys got through that okay. Always, if you have questions or anything, send me a picture, send me a message. I'm always happy to troubleshoot. So, okay. We're gonna do the same thing down here. I'm gonna do white and turquoise. So I've got a big glob of turquoise on my brush. I'm gonna go gentle next to my pumpkin there. So I just did like 2 sections. I'm gonna put some white on my brush, and I'm gonna just angle. Okay. Add some more white in. Now you could add like a green in if you wanted to. You could add that peach color would look cute with it for the shading. You could even add some brown if you wanted. I'm gonna show you guys what that looks like. So I just did a couple little pieces there with the brown. The key is just keeping it in one area. Like you don't want to, if you do the whole thing, you're going to have just like a blue-brown mess. Wet paint. Okay, you guys know you can pause me anytime. So if I'm sure I'm painting a lot faster, just for video's sake. Okay. All right, I got a little bit of my blue in the orange here. So I'm gonna do just a little bit of touch up with some light orange, white and orange. Some shading just to cover up that blue a little bit. Okay. All right. So there she is. Okay. All right. So I keep wanting to put my brush in my coffee. I tell you guys not to do all the time. Okie dokie. Now, what we're gonna do next, we're gonna do the stem, and we're gonna do some outlining, and we're gonna do his face, okay? So what I'm gonna do, my stem is not wet, so I'm gonna just flip this around. If you wanna like take a break, let it dry, you can do that. I'm gonna use that dark brown paint that I made, and I'm going to fill this in. I've got my skinny brush. If you have a medium-sized brush, you could use that too. I mean, you could really even use your large brush because the edges are brown anyway. And if you're wondering why I didn't paint the edges, I just don't. I think it's a little too tedious and it's really hard to get it perfect. So I just leave them that dark brown. All right, so what I did on this little bottom part around the stem, if you want to leave it straight across, you can, or you can take your brush and just really lightly, almost like feather it down. Not hardly any paint on your brush, but it just gives it that look like how the top of a pumpkin is, kind of grows into it, I guess is the word. Okay, all right, now I'm gonna put a little bit of water on my skinny brush and just swish it around in my brown paint. And what I did, guys, is I did just a skinny line, skinny brush, light touch. You don't have to push very hard. The lighter you push, the skinnier your line's gonna be. And that paint should be dry. If it's not, just let it dry a little bit or get out your hairdryer. But all I'm doing is just making a really thin, almost like a shadow underneath the peach pumpkin. And if you want to make it kind of come up the edges a little bit, or even if you want to do a little bit on those little lines. The key is light touch, not very much paint. Okay. And then we want to do the same thing under the orange pumpkin. And it doesn't take very much paint, guys, so don't feel like you have to mix like a big bunch of this brown paint, because I'm just using like what little bit I have on my plate there. Okay, and I'm going to do just a little up on these edges here, just kind of like a shadow. Okay, now we want to go in the triangles and the mouth. I'm going to let my blue dry a little bit more before I add any detail on there. If your orange is really wet, definitely let it dry, because your brown's going to mix in with it. But I've just still got brown on that skinny brush. You could even use your black paint if you want to. You guys can choose which one you want. Or you could mix some more black in with that brown to just make it like a shade darker than the stem. So slow and steady on these lines, okay? Just take it easy. Try to go inside of the lines. That way you're not, it doesn't get a whole lot bigger if you know, have a little mess up. But it's a pumpkin, right? So they're not always going to be perfectly straight lines, right? You could use a Sharpie or like a paint pen. The Sharpie, you need to make sure that your paint is super dry, like a day's worth of drying. And I don't know how that would look to fill it in. Now, if you just wanted to outline it, you could do that with a Sharpie. Now, if you do go outside of the lines and you decide you want to touch up, make sure you look at it from really far away. Make sure you really want to touch it up. And then you can make sure it's completely dry before you try to touch anything up. Somebody said the other night that this pumpkin looked angry. I didn't realize how angry he looked till they said that. I thought, oh, maybe I should have made him a happier pumpkin. He's still cute. I love this one too because you have multiple seasons, so it's not like you can just leave it up for a month and then be done with it. Okay. I kind of do like how this looks like just outlined. I'm going to just outline part of this and show you guys. So if you're contemplating just doing the outline, it doesn't look bad. So depend, you know, if you wanted to use a Sharpie or something. Now on the bottom, so I already did this little line underneath. Just darken that a little bit. And then I did just a little bit more shading down here on the bottom with my dark brown. So I'm just ever so lightly adding some shadows in at the bottom. Okay. And you may want to put 2 coats on his eyes and a nose. That's up to you guys. If you can, you know, see through a lot, or if you just think it needs to be thicker, just let it dry first. Because you'll just have a mess if you try to cover it while it's wet. Okay. Okay, there he is. Pumpkin is ready. Now, I did not drill holes in this because I didn't know for sure what you guys were gonna do with them, and I hated to have a big hole in the top if you didn't want it. So what you can do is you can tie a string around the top, hang it that way. You can lean it. If you have a drill, you could drill just like a couple of holes in the top. A command strip will work well too if you want to just stick them somewhere. I always teeter on the holes or no holes because if you don't use them, they look kind of yucky. So, okay, pumpkin is finished. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let him dry, and then I will come back and do the snowman with you guys. Okay guys, so we're back to paint the snowman side of our pumpkin. Hat and snowman. So I'm going to use a little bit different colors. I'm just sorry, I have to send you guys like the whole assortment. But what we're going to do first is we're going to get a really good coat of white paint on our snowman. In fact, we're going to do 2 coats. You may even want to do 3, just depending on how thick you go. But a couple things that I want to mention, I know we talked about in the first video, you might want to paint them on different days just because of dry time. But make sure you don't have any paint on your paper if you're painting them the same day or whatever you're using. Make sure it is completely dry before you lay it down flat, okay? And also think about paint on your fingers. If you have black or brown paint, this white, you just want to make sure not to get that on the snowman side, okay? I'm using my big brush. We're going to use the little brush. If you have a medium brush, we'll use it again. But we're just going to give him a good coat of paint. And I'm doing it the same way I did the pumpkin, where I'm just kind of making these long rounded brush strokes. And then we're going to do a couple coats. I went ahead and just did one just for time's sake, but you want to make sure and let them really dry in between, just like everything else, because it won't cover if you don't. And don't really worry about the stem because it's going to be covered up by the hat. Okay. And don't be afraid of the paint on this, guys. It will really soak that paint in. So it's okay to kind of load your paint up and really get it covered. Okay. So next step is going to be, when it dries, we're going to paint the hat, let it dry a little bit, and then we'll do the nose and the mouth and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do my hat turquoise and black. So I'm going to just take some of this turquoise paint that I still have on my plate, which if you're doing this, you know, a different day, you'll want to go ahead and put some on your plate. If it struggles to cover, you can always add some white in. You could do a black hat too with a turquoise line across it too, or just do a plain black. Or any other colors that you may have or may want to get. They're just, you could do any color. Okay. And you may want a couple of coats on the hat. That's up to you guys and how well it covers. Or if you want, you know, like any shading, you could do some white shading in there. Just kind of around the curves. Or you can just make it solid too. Okay. So I'm going to do a black line across. I'm going to let it dry a little bit. And I went ahead and just filled that in because my black is going to cover everything. But if you were doing like a black hat with a turquoise line, you could go ahead and you know, go around that if you wanted to. It should cover pretty well. So as long as you let it dry really well. Alright, so I'm going to get out my skinny mini brush, and what I want to do is I'm just going to make this band here. The first coat on these dry really fast too. Now, if you have a medium, like a little bit bigger brush, you could do that to fill in, or you could even use your large brush. Just be careful. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna just set this little guy aside, let that black dry, and then I'm gonna give that black a second coat of paint. Okay, so I think that mine is covered pretty well. I did 2.5 coats. So I did 2 coats and then added some more in some areas where I thought that it needed it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the scarf first, okay? And you know, if you don't want a scarf, you don't have to put a scarf. I think it's cute. We're gonna freehand it. You can always use a pencil if you want to. Just make sure your paint is really good and dry. Okay. So I'm gonna use white, and I'm gonna use turquoise for this. Skinny brush. Make sure you get all that black paint out of it. Okay, so the scarf is gonna go right across here, okay? So what you wanna do is you wanna start skinny. You can always make it bigger, okay? So what we'll do is we'll make a line just above the crease, and then we'll make a line just below the crease, and it's curved, okay? And then I'm gonna go ahead and just fill that in with thick paint. Because scarves are, they have a lot of creases and crinkles, so it's okay to have some brush stroke lines. It's okay to not be perfectly straight. Okay. Now, if you want it to be thicker, you can make it thicker. I always just like to go skinny first. It's way easier to make something bigger than it is to make something skinnier. Okay. All right. Now we've got the lines that come down for the scarf. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do one here, and then I'm gonna do one there. Okay, so they're not straight. Skinny brush. And then all I'm gonna do is just go back and just thicken them up a little bit to maybe like a 1/2 inch. All right, now on the bottom, now take your time, guys. If you need to pause me, it's fine. On the bottom, I've got turquoise on my brush, and then I'm gonna glob some white on there too. And what I'm gonna do is at the end of this little scarf, I'm just gonna make a round little like pom-pom at the end of the scarf. So all I did was dab and just make a little circle, okay? And that one kind of went off the edge a little bit, but I think that's okay. Now you can kind of like mess with that as much as you want, as far as, you know, going in and adding more paint, more white to it, just to give it some shape. You know, you may want to let it dry and do a second coat. It's up to you guys on how bold you want that to be. Okay. Now comes the fun part. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, and the buttons, okay? So there's a few things that you can do. You can use the tip of your paintbrush to make a circle. You can use Sharpies. Just make sure your paint is completely dry. You can use a pencil at first if you want to do that. Just the key with those things is making sure you're really good and dry before you put a Sharpie or a pencil on there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use the tip of my big paintbrush to start. And I'm going to just glob some black paint. So let's think about where things are going to be. So the hat's going to be here. Okay. So you want to make sure you have enough room for everything. So we're going to do eyes here, nose here, and mouth here. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'll put it down so hopefully you guys can see. I'm going to find the center. I'm going to come down, and then I'm going to go over and I'm going to make a dot there. And I'm going to make a dot there. And then I'm going to build on those dots, okay? So you can continue to use the end of your paintbrush if you want. Start small. Always go bigger. Even just kind of dab that paint on there too. It's okay to have really thick. Okay. We have eyes. Okay, and then the mouth. So I feel like sometimes people want to do different style mouths when we paint snowmen, which is completely fine. This one is just dots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down, I'm going to leave room for the nose, and just kind of right above the scarf, I'm going to make a dot in the center. And I want this to just kind of come up on the side. Go back and make these teeny bit thicker. I'm just barely touching with this paint. Okay. Yay! All right. Make sure you wipe that paint off your brush. If not, you'll have a mess all over yourself. Okay. All right. Next step, nose. You know what? Actually, let's go ahead and do the 3 buttons. Let that dry just a smidge, and then we'll go back to it. So, find the center of his body. I can make him just a little bit bigger. I'm just kind of dabbing that paint on there. It's pretty thick, but I like it like that. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna just set this aside for a minute, and I'm gonna go back to my hat. So take your time on painting those. Pause me if you need to. I just want to go back and do another coat of my black paint here. And if you need to add any more in with your turquoise or anything like that, you can, but I'm pretty happy with mine. I'm gonna leave him just like he is. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to find my skinny brush, make sure I get all that black paint out of there. Even like use your finger to make sure it's nice and pointy. And I'm going to take orange paint. We're just making a long triangle. Okay, so I want to find the center, and it doesn't matter which direction it goes. I'm going to find the center between my eyes, and I'm going to make a little line. And a little triangle, light touch. Okay. It's okay. My little one's wanting to come out. Okay. Nose is done. You'll probably want to put a couple of coats on that. Let it dry a little bit, and then you can... Yay, snowman! Now, the only thing left to do, and you're going to want to wait a little bit to put these Velcro things on there, because they don't stick very well when the paint is wet. But what I did is I just did a couple of them on there where it makes sense. And you can put them on here first and then put them on however you want to do it. And then just attach the hat on when you want to use it. Otherwise, or you can just, you know, you won't want to have it on when you have the pumpkin, unless you want a hat on your pumpkins, which is kind of cute. So that is that. I will have the October Creatives Club project coming out soon. If you guys have any suggestions, of course, I would love to hear it. I did get some awesome suggestions from some of you, and I think we'll probably be doing some of that up here in the next couple of months. There's also on my website, if you haven't seen, there's a whole bunch of other wood cutout pieces that you can order, and I'm going to post a 20% off code in the Creators Club group. So if there's any that you want to order, you can order them, you know, at 20% off. So let me know if you guys have questions. Of course, I want to see your final products, and you guys have a good day. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.